Okay, we're back to talk about Alien Earth, Season 1, Episode 3, Metamorphosis. This episode written by Noah Hawley and Bob De Laurentiis and directed by Dana Gonzalez. Aboard the Maginot, which did crash in New Siam, Cavalier orders Kirsch and the Lost Boys to gather all five species of alien samples and bring them back to their island so they can be studied. Kirsch and Dame Sylvia believe that this will distract from the product that they are about to launch, but Cavalier demands they take whatever it was that Utani wants so much. Morrow confronts me and slightly about the eggs that they are guarding and finds it mysterious that they're synths who think that they have parents. Kirsch arrives, Morrow escapes, but tells Utani his mission is to find the aliens and that he will not stop until he brings them to her. Wendy and Hermit do fight the xenomorph, and Wendy is able to defeat it by decapitating it. Both are seriously injured in the fight. They return to the island along with the entire Prodigy crew, and while Wendy rests, Hermit undergoes surgery, removing his lung. Kirsch, Toodles, and Curly dissect the facehugger from one of the eggs and place the larva from it inside of Hermit's lung, which had been preserved after it was removed. And during all of this, Wendy wakes up, sets out to find the source of a shrill noise in her head. She ends up passing out near the xenomorph eggs. So I really enjoyed this episode. I think one thing maybe we can even start on is we had some questions about, how far out would we go in this world? And we did end up leaving the apartment building. We're back on the island. We've spent a little bit of time with Morrow in New Siam, so a little bit of time with Utani. So yeah, we're building out the world a little bit here.
Yeah, I'm saying my first notice. I sort of love to be wrong, speculating last week that the whole season would, still be dealing with the rescue mission or whatever you want to call it in the building with the crash ship. It actually
Yeah.
does seem like we're done with that, basically like halfway through this episode. Probably to the good. I am curious as they expand out the world, and then of course they've just kind of shifted the potential threat from the crash ship to the Prodigy lab, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of
That
interesting.
would be the thing. I think, are we now spending most of our time in the lab or the Prodigy corporate sort of infrastructure that we have here? That's probably the question now.
Yeah, although it's interesting that like in a meaningful way, Kirsch seems to have it figured out suspiciously quickly when it comes to like how the facehuggers work.
Right.
Um, eh, I mean, I guess I'll buy it. I don't know. Like he read whatever logs.
Yeah.
But he made an inference based on how the egg started opening up when Morrow was near it or something like that. So I don't know. Anyway, it seems like they understand to keep human beings' faces away from these eggs. Um, Not sure what's going to happen with a little science experiment.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go to that. So as I was saying to you before we started recording, I'll admit, cards on the table. I didn't fully follow this, right? So I read your summary and I thought, oh, okay, this makes sense. That they were removing Hermit's lung, and then that's what he was putting the little tadpole xenomorph in with.
Yeah.
Yes,
My,
that's what.
my on one watch, I've not gone back and watched the second time, but my understanding from this is it seems as though part of the injuries in the xenomorph battle had to do with his lung, and so that lung had to be removed. But instead of just discarding it, they have somehow, it looks like maybe even repaired it and preserved it, but unknown whether it was for this express intent of putting this xenomorph larva inside of it. But it certainly looks like that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, or again, again, referencing something I said before we started recording. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe his song was fine, and these people are just doing an evil science experiment.
That is also a possibility.
It's a little unclear. We're jumping around, with apologies, but um, Wendy finds Hermit, and he's got the web thing going on, which had kind of slipped my mind a little bit. I guess I'm not. I don't want to say I forgot that the xenomorphs did the web, spider webby kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but he's like kind of webbed up against the wall, as we've seen
Yeah.
before with various alien films. So she manages to free him, but then the xenomorph's there. I guess what I'm rambling around to get to is through all of that, it wasn't entirely clear to me what kind of injuries Hermit might have. So
Right. It seemed to be that there was some stabbing with the tail throughout the course of the battle, so maybe you got a punctured lung or something. But yeah, it did certainly raise some questions of how that happened, why the xenomorph used Hermit to set a trap, and then we see the outcome of this battle, but we certainly don't see all that Wendy was able to do to it, certainly by overpowering it. I have to admit, was a little bit of a shock for me.
Yeah. What how do you interpret the spider webby thing? Is it just like I'm gonna save this as a snack for later, or
I was wondering the same thing because Hermit says, "Oh, no, no, it's a trap. Don't, get out. Don't come in." I mean, how would he necessarily know that?
yeah,
But we don't have any indication other than Morrow that the xenomorph has spared any other being that's come into contact with. So, was there a purpose? Was there an intention behind all of that? I mean, I almost have to read it as yes, because it's so far removed from what he was doing to every other human that came into contact with.
yeah. Trap is weird though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So you mentioned Wendy, and does she have superhuman strength? Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, we saw her do that
Yeah.
cliff jump and all of that.
Exactly. She must if she's going to take this thing down single-handedly.
Yeah, it's like, and of course, a sword or a knife works, right? So we don't actually see this happening, but she manages to cut the xenomorph's head off,
Yep.
and then is herself meaningfully injured, right? We see her like milky blood and stuff like that, right? So I think in your recap you said she was resting, which
Yeah.
it's a little
Also,
bit more than
also,
that, right?
also
Like,
recovering. Yeah, she's recovering.
yeah, she's
Being
messed
impaired.
up,
Being
and
impaired. Yeah.
they're doing work on her and so on. And so that's a question to talk about when she wakes up. It is like she is hearing something or feeling something, getting almost like glitches in her head. And they're in the visual language of the show connected to what's being done to the face hugger or whatever.
Yes.
What do you
Yes.
think here?
Yeah. So I didn't get so much of an impression that it was her hearing something, but as you mentioned, inside her head, there is some kind of connection between her and these specimens that are now on the ship. And as they are dissecting and torturing and cutting up and experimenting with the various parts of the eggs and the xenomorph and the face hugger, that she's experiencing that somehow when it's causing her this tremendous amount of pain that eventually just forces her to pass out. So I just was very curious, and I really have no answers as to, what is this connection she has made to this creature, and does that have anything to do with why it was perhaps trying to lure her into to a confrontation earlier in the episode?
Yeah, did the xenomorph like put something in her head somehow? Because that's where
Yeah,
we saw the, you know, milk blood was on her head.
right, right.
So some kind of implantation of something in her head. I don't know. I mean, I presume the show will do more with this, and
Yeah.
I almost don't know how to speculate further. I don't feel like that's the kind of thing we've ever seen in an alien film before, for
I,
example.
I was thinking the same thing. I do not recall any, and again, this being a unique characteristic of a synth with a human consciousness inside of it, I don't recall either a synth or a human having any sort of telepathic connection or anything connected to a xenomorph like this where they would experience something similarly.
Yeah. You know what alien film I probably should rewatch is Resurrection. I think it's been quite a while since I've seen Alien
Yeah,
Resurrection.
it's been a long time since I've seen that.
Again, so maybe there's something in there. I don't know. Apologize if any, like, if hardcore Alien fans are listening, like, going, like, you dummies, remember this stuff? And
Yeah.
the, um, I haven't seen that one in quite a while. Maybe not since it came out in the theater. Um, so might be worth revisiting. Of course, let me reiterate, again, as I said last week, I think we shouldn't get too hung up on whether
Yeah.
what's going on in the show is consistent with what happened in the films or not. But, certainly with some of this stuff, like understanding what's going on, you can pull on maybe something from one of the films. The spider webby thing we were talking about, I just realized like that happens in the films, but I don't feel like I've
Yep.
ever had a real good interpretation as to why.
Why? Yeah, no, I don't either. I really don't either. It's interesting that Moro has this weapon of some kind that can spiderweb up the xenomorph. Obviously, the xenomorph's always had this sort of ability to do that. But yeah, no rhyme or reason as to why or how it makes that determination of who gets that or not.
Right, which is fine because part of the I don't know, terror of the xenomorph is precisely how alien it is, how other it is, how much you pay. So not being able to understand why it's doing what it's doing can just kind of
Right.
feed into that. I'll be curious to see the results of their experiment, right? I mean, it seems like when they cut open the face hugger and all of that, then they find what I keep referring to as a tadpole.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It's a xenomorph, xeno xenomorphic tadpole, whatever. I was trying to combine the words and totally failed. Um, is the lung sufficient, for that to grow?
Yeah.
Um, and if so, that seems bad. So I don't know,
Yeah.
Kirsch.
Yeah. You may not understand quite what you have done here. I mean, it's a very, yes, I think the logical path of, I think we know from the movies that these face huggers insert something into the mouths of the people that then implant the tadpole or the larva or whatever inside this person. So logic would state that it's inside the lungs of them if they're, shoving something down their throat. So lung is apparently the proper environment to grow these things. That thing is clearly going to outgrow this glass case that it's in. So I think we can pretty clearly see what's about to happen next with this. But yeah, why he thinks that this will be a experiment worth conducting when they seem to know, or at least Kirsch from his download seems to know what could happen here. Yeah, no explanation as to why they are doing it this quickly and this fast.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, so he wants to test the theory. What do we
Yeah.
got here, and so on. Um, there is a through line with the synths in the films and so on,
Mhm.
being generally just more fascinated by the xenomorphs.
Yeah.
Um,
Almost sympathetic to them at times.
yeah, yeah. And from what we've seen, they don't seem to present as much of a threat to synths as humans,
Right.
at least. But there's the wrinkle that in this very episode, you got the fight with Wendy. So um, I don't know, man. Is there going to be some kind of almost mystical reason
Yeah.
having to do with the fact that it's a human consciousness in a synthetic body as opposed to a fully synthetic
I
android?
mean,
I don't know.
you think it would have to be, I mean, sure, you can have a plot line like that where this company, Prodigy, is creating this method by which you can live forever, which is implant your consciousness into the synthetic body. I mean, yeah, that's a cool thing to be doing, but to introduce that as such a primary part of the first two episodes, there has to be something that makes a connection there, I guess is what I'm trying to point at. There is not just oh, we're doing this because it's cool and look what they were doing in the background. Now we're going to focus on, being attacked by, there has to be something there that's going to raise a connection.
Yeah, I would think. I am still enjoying how all of that's going. What about you? I mean, is it working for you the way in which you've got these like kids basically, the whole kind of shtick.
Yeah, so let's see. Moro, who are the two? So it's Smee and Slightly that he comes up on, right? That when they're guarding the eggs,
I believe that's right.
and I, I think it's fine. Just maybe I just find it odd, or just sort of as just one of those haven't computed yet that you've got these, in many cases, very talented young adult actors, and they're being told to act like children, and they do a very good job of it. But it's almost like they can't, they're children that can't control themselves, and so it just makes for very interesting conversations, very interesting dynamics between the characters. I don't know, maybe I just haven't settled on the idea that I like how they're doing that, or it's taking me out of it too much.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the stuff with Morrow. Um, well, let me parse this a bit. So you're referencing first the scene when they're, right by the eggs on the ship.
Yeah,
I thought that worked. I enjoyed that. And I potentially do want to talk about his question or riddle, when is a machine not a machine? Um, but I also enjoyed how part of what they're doing with the fact that these synths are children, the hybrids,
yeah,
it opens the door for Morrow to be wondering what's going on here, right? It's like clearly you're synthetic, but you think you have parents, you're acting like children. Um, and he's kind of put it together. And just on its own, I think that adds an interesting element to the show in terms of the intrigue on the corporate side, right?
yes, yes,
Because these beings are a secret, right?
yeah.
So now, if Morrow's figured it out, now Wayland Yutani, the rival company, can find out about it. And, where does all of that go? What I'm not sure really landed for me was when Morrow calls up, what's his name? Which one is that? I'm
I
sorry.
think that was Smee, but I'll honestly recall which one's Smee and which one's Slightly.
Yeah, apologies, everyone. I'm having trouble keeping my Lost Boys
And
straight in the show, I
I
guess.
can tell you, I can tell
But
you real quick.
um, yeah, if you want to look it up, that'd be great. But that scene where they're talking like, well, they're not really on the phone. I don't know exactly what's going on. Or Morrow's like able to almost phone in to the mind of. Did you get the name of which one it is?
Yeah, so I believe, let's see, Jonathan Ajayi is Smee, so I think that's who we're talking about here.
All right, so he's like almost inside Smee's head. That scene, I don't know. I mean, I guess, but they're the show's using the fact that he's has the consciousness of a child as a way to allow him to be manipulated. And I don't know if that worked quite as well for me as some of the other stuff. What about you?
Yeah, that part, I think you're exactly right. I mean, I understood structurally how that happened, right? So as a cyborg, he had something inside of him he was able to implant inside of Smee to communicate with him neurally
Yeah,
somehow. And so I understand logistically how that would work, but in terms of him being so now driven on this mission, and he's going to use what is essentially a child to help him achieve that. Don't you want a friend? Everybody needs a friend, that type of thing. Yeah, it was odd. I do have to say, I think the Morrow part of this to after episode three and might be the most interesting part of the show to me now, right? As you said, has these secrets. Is that currency to trade later for the specimens for the secrets? Because what is he says he has a quote unquote way in. And so what does he know? What can he do? And just sort of his mission to do nothing but bring these things back. I find that intriguing. The part between him and the two Lost Boys, wasn't exactly my favorite. Didn't exactly work as well as might have I thought, but I am all in on sort of the Morrow storyline here.
yeah, I am too. I am too. I am interested, really interested to see where it goes. And I guess it's plausible enough. But just the shift in that scene from "get out of my head, go away, I'm not talking to you" to "okay, yes, I'll be your friend." I mean, I guess that's plausible for a child to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Unfortunately, you know,
We didn't
but
spend, other than Marcy, we didn't really spend any time with these children before us. We don't know their ages, their personalities, much at all about who they are. We're just trying to get that inference from the way that these characters are acting.
yeah, let's talk about a couple more of them along those lines. Um, what do you think is going on with Nibs? You know which one that is?
Yes, Nibs is the redhead, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
She
that is the one
was,
that she's questioning their name, she's questioning their purpose. other than just, this idea of the machine, which hopefully we'll get to later, just, a being questioning its existence. I wasn't quite sure what she was going for here, but just becomes the most curious of the group right now.
Yeah, and we get some shots where she's like poking her own eyeball, and some shots that are a little bit I don't know, almost like kind of hard to interpret in terms of how to put them together. Artistically done shot. I mean, it's cool, but I guess I didn't know exactly what to make of what we saw her kind of going through.
Hmm.
Um, I guess maybe, as you say, she is the representative of the one who feels really uncomfortable about what's going on and what's happened to her.
Yes.
And you recall,
The one questioning the nature of her existence, right? Or, what
yeah.
she is, what her place, yeah.
Well, and I was going to say too, if you recall, she was the little girl who, before she became a synth, asked, "When do we get to go home?"
Yes, yes, that's exactly right. Yep.
And gets the response, "You don't." Right?
Yeah.
Um, which again, all right, like how evil are these people? Because you might want to presume that in the middle, or after she asks, "When do we get to go home?" and gets a response, "You don't," that
Hmm.
at some point she said, "Oh well, okay," you know, but maybe she didn't ever say okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, did you even get that kind of semblance of consent, or just kind of voice this upon that terminally ill child? And now she's in this situation that she's in. So she's
Yeah, I
got some
think one of the
discontent
most
going on as well.
yeah, one of the most interesting things about I think this construct is that presumably this agreement to turn these terminally ill children over to this experiment was made by their parents, not by
Yeah.
them. And so what was explained, not explained to them, what did they understand or not understand before they went through this? And so just the mind of a child, it's you're going to go through something, and then when it's over, you'll get to go back home and live your life. And that's apparently what Nibs is kind of looking for here. And now that she doesn't have that, it's very much a okay, why? What are we doing here? Why are we even a part of this? And who am I? It's interesting that they, as much as it may have irked me a little bit in terms of the acting like a child, the fact that that's how it's set up is very interesting.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And then kind of on the very flip side of that, you've got what's her name? Come on, I know that I wrote this down. Curly,
Clearly.
um, who goes to, I almost called him Captain Cavalier.
That's right.
Boy,
Boy Cavalier.
Boy Cavalier. Um, she's into it, right? She's
Oh
like,
yeah.
I get it, I understand. I learned French, you know. I, I'm I'm gonna become your favorite, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so I thought that was interesting. I wanted to be sure to mention that here. Other thoughts about Curly?
Yeah, just in terms of, I'm glad you said this because it sort of represents the spectrum of what these six children in these bodies represent, right? You do have Nibs, which is very much I'm not sure I want to even be here. Why do we have these names? Why are we doing this to Curly? Sort of, I guess in a sense, understands what's happening or understands the purpose of what they are or who they're being. And I mean, she wasn't present for that conversation of how Cavalier wants to use them for certain things like intellectual conversations and use them to make money and all this, but she's understand that there might be a hierarchy here, and she'll do anything that she can to displace Wendy at the top. Wendy's not here. Wendy's injured. I'm here. What can I do for you? Yeah, there's a wide spectrum of the personality, the range of who these lost boys are.
Yeah. Wendy is his favorite because
Hmm.
she came first.
Hmm.
Probably fair to suggest that Wendy is our favorite and has been, well, I mean, has been set up as the protagonist of this show.
Yeah, yeah.
However, I don't know exactly what's going on with her at the end. She's clearly messed up. She collapses. And I got to thinking about whether Wendy has plot armor. And I'm not sure if she does, actually. Well, just thinking about Noah Hawley's other shows and things like that. Like, I
Yeah,
presume she's not like dead at the end of this episode, right?
right.
But I don't know if I can assume that at some point in the near future she'll be back to herself and, okay.
Do we have any evidence that the other Lost Boys have any of the superhuman or supernatural abilities that Wendy has? Um, I would have to assume yes, but we've not seen any of that. And so if there's a savior coming out of any of them for what's about to happen, then maybe it has to be Wendy. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know if that's foolproof, but that's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. I mean, I would presume that they all have the same kind of physical abilities,
Yeah.
but there's a big distinction in terms of their psychology, if you like,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So, in other words, if you're asking, could one of the other Lost Boys decapitate a xenomorph with a knife?
Yeah.
The answer is no. Well, like maybe Curly, maybe Nibs, maybe. But like with the other guys, like Smee and Slightly, and the answer is no. But I don't think the answer is no because they'd be physically incapable. I think the answer is no because they'd be like mentally incapable.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you recall them being scared of the eyeball octopus monster and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. I do think that they have done a good job as we talk about speaking slightly again. You could tell, at least, I don't know if you want to say age or level of maturity, but speaking slightly are sort of the least evolved or least intelligent or least mature of this group, and they can, bond over the grossness of the species that they found and all these things, and so you can sort of label them that way, I guess. Whereas Wendy and Curly, there might be some kind of conflict coming because they psychologically or mentally are the most advanced. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but it seems that way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah,
Yeah,
most mature might be better than advanced. I don't know.
that's true. Yeah, yeah,
Um, but at the same time, Wendy killing that xenomorph that she killed was strongly motivated by protecting her brother,
yes,
you know.
yes.
Um, so certainly, you could imagine that happening again. I don't quite feel like that's gonna go that way. Here's another question along these lines. Do the synths like Kirsch have similar kind of physical prowess? Um, maybe. But again,
Yeah,
even
that's a
even
good.
thinking about the films, I don't know that we ever saw something that was showing extreme physical
Yeah,
strength.
I mean, I'm trying to think between David and Ash. I don't recall anything. I mean, extreme intelligence, extreme manipulation, extreme focus and drive towards a goal, but I don't recall anything that would show any sort of abilities like that.
I mean, like
Like,
I kind
like,
of recall David doing some fighting stuff, or
yeah, yeah.
in Alien
I'm sure
Covenant,
people
there's
will
like
tell us when we're wrong.
I watched Alien Covenant relatively recently, and there's a fight between the two synths. That's the
Okay.
biggest thing that I'm thinking about. And but it didn't seem like it was, Superman versus Superman. Stronger than a
Right.
human being or whatever, sure. But anyhow, again, I don't think Noah Hawley is beholden to film canon, and Cal keeps saying things like that when I feel like they're relevant. But it did get me wondering here, what's going to happen with that experiment? Are they hatching a xenomorph in the lab? Will they be able to handle it? Right.
Hmm.
And if, as we were talking about, the at least many of the Lost Boys wouldn't be able to handle it because they are not like mature enough, or
Yeah.
don't have sufficient courage or whatever. Well, could Kirsch handle it? Right.
Hmm.
And I think at very least Kirsch is confident that he can, he could, he will.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then I don't
I
know.
I I think we're going down a road of Kirsch is going to be more like Morrow, where he's going to learn that this is too valuable to destroy or too important to destroy, and it's going to have to be someone like Wendy that does it if it ends up happening.
Yeah, fairly likely,
Yeah.
you know. um, or the xenomorph kills them all and
Yeah, that's
something else
happened.
happens. There are various possibilities. There are various possibilities, but you know, all I can say is if it's going to fit with the first Alien film at all,
Hmm.
there is the implication that at the end of this narrative, which predates that, Wayland Yutani does not have a xenomorph, right? I
Correct.
feel like I think you need that because the first film involves them trying to get one. You know what I mean? But beyond that, doors open for a lot of possibilities. We also have these other species.
Yeah.
Any thoughts or speculations about how they might fit into things ultimately?
Well, on here that we got confirmation that there were five because we were questioning that last week. Sort of what did we find? How many of them did we find? We even asked the question, how many xenomorphs are there? I guess there were only one. However, we have six eggs.
Yeah.
So we now know sort of what we're dealing with. I don't know if if the flora, fauna, the eye octopus, the others will factor into what happens later. Potentially, I think it might be cool if they did, but we now know sort of exactly what we're dealing with here, at least.
Yeah, can we count up to five? So the xenomorph is one, the eyeball
Mhm.
octopus is two, the sluggy thing, the slug
The
thing,
blood slug is three. The flora fauna is four.
four.
I wonder if there's considering the egg of number
Maybe they're
five.
considering the egg five. Yeah. Yeah. Well, which is fair enough, I mean, because you got the eggs with the face huggers and, to distinguish them from the xenomorph. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I wonder what they're going to do with that body, that dead xenomorph body.
that's a great question. Yeah. A lot of possibilities of where we're headed here. That's one thing that I'm loving so far is just can't quite predict what's going to happen. You see enough alien movies, you think, "Oh, okay, I understand the sort of story, but not exactly sure where we're headed."
Yeah. Looking forward to it though. Really enjoying the series so far. Oh, okay. One last. We'll end on the riddle, I guess. When is a machine not a machine, right?
When is machine not a machine? So my only thought on this is I keep going back to another sense of IP or when we're dealing with smart machines, when it becomes self-aware, when it learns it's not a machine, when it can tell itself that's not a machine, doesn't have to follow machine rules. Maybe I've been too much in the Terminator universe before, but that seems to be you've advanced beyond the capabilities of not the capabilities, but the rules within a machine must live.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best I've got as well, something along those lines. When
Yeah.
it has self-consciousness, autonomy, whatever. I wonder if Morrow has like a specific answer that we're going to get at some point in the show. I'd be
Yeah.
curious to hear that. If so, um, it depends. I don't know. We don't need that tangent. It's like
We'll have to
insert
revisit.
philosophical tangent about the distinction between a machine and a mechanism. We don't need to do that.
Yes. Yes.
Because I think even, it's that mechanistic aspect you're really referring to that implies a lack of freedom. So
Right.
if the machine is free to determine its own behavior and so on and so forth, probably go along those lines. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm really curious what Morrow has in mind there and why he's asking that question to Smee, and where that goes, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that the whole Moro thing, not only bringing up this question, what the implications are of that question, but what he ends up doing, how he ends up doing it, that part, I mean, it just intrigues me the most so far.
Yeah. I don't see logistically how he could get in there and grab up all these alien species and take them away. So,
No, and that's what he needs an ally, and that's why he's recruiting the Lost Boys.
yeah. So curious what his plan is, how this all shapes up. Hopefully Wendy is okay. I presume that she'll be in the show. Again,
Yeah.
I don't think that she's just like gonna die, but I do think there's a chance that she is. Something's going on, And, it might be bad. She might not ever really get better. We'll see. Um, all right. Anything else you want to hit on?
I think that's it. Just waiting for episode 4 next week.
Okay, then. All right. Thanks as always for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you're on YouTube, press that thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Greatly appreciate it. Check out tvobsessive.com. You'll be able to find written work on any number of TV shows there, past and present. Although we don't have articles on Alien Earth, we just got the podcast, so listen to the podcast. Um, you will have articles for me on Invasion starting on Friday, and we've got a few other things going on at the moment. Dexter Resurrection. We should have some stuff on Peacemaker on the horizon. Anyway,
Mm.
check out tvobsessive.com. You can follow the site on social media, search for TV Obsessive, and you should find us. And we'll be back with you talking about Alien Earth next week.
All right. Looking forward to that. See you then.